demand increasing attention to detail. Actors have to learn how to behave like real soldiers. That calls for training. And in today's Hollywood, that means going to boot camp with Dale Dye.
British troops, 35th Regiment of Foot, marching down the road. Suddenly one of the officers...
Dale Dye spent 21 years in the military before he went on active duty in the movie business. Today, he's Hollywood's top military advisor.
Be advised, we got zips in the wire down here.
Dale Dye has worked on many contemporary war films, including Oliver Stone's Oscar-winning Platoon.
After I had retired from the United States Marine Corps, I was looking for a way to get myself into the film business, to inculcate my ideas about military films, films about military people, and to bring them to a mass audience. It was a very hard sell, because I was asking Hollywood to pay me a lot of money to do something that they had done without me for a lot of years. So what I was trying to do was sell Hollywood on the idea that I can make your film different. I can make your film sing. I can make it feel right. I can make it smell right. Because I know combat. I know the sound of combat. I know the smell of combat. I know the emotions involved. I can bring you these things. It was clear to me, and it was clear to Oliver Stone, that the only way we were ever going to get the real verisimilitude into this thing, the only way we were going to get that 1,000-yard stare and that bush vet, jungle, tired, stink, hard look, was to make them stink and make them get hard. So I took them about 85 miles up in the jungle, where there were no phones, no people, no agents, no trailers, no nothing, but an entrenching tool, which is a small folding shovel. And I handed it to them and I said, "People, dig your hole. This is home for the next 2 weeks." When I build a unit for a film, I build a unit. Whoever you thought you were when you arrived on an airplane, you are no longer that person. You are who you're going to be in this film, and you're going to think that way, and you're going to live that way, and you're going to eat that way, and you're going to sleep that way, and you're going to suffer that way. I remember the first night that we were in the bush in the Philippines. I had literally just drugged these kids off of an airplane, cut all of their hair off, told them I didn't ever want to hear the name Johnny Depp, Tom Berenger, Charlie Sheen, whoever those clowns were. They stayed back stateside. You people are now Bravo Company, 2nd Platoon, and this is the way it's going to be. And of course, they got into it right away. They realized what the situation was. What they didn't realize was how serious I could get about it. What I did was the first evening when they were trying to dig in, it was just about dusk, and they didn't know which end of the shovel worked. They didn't know how their packs went on, and that was fine. I wanted them to be that confused. I wanted them to experience that disorientation, that confusion. And what I had my effects guy do was to emplace explosive charges around this hilltop where they were dug in. They had no clue that this was going to happen. And just about the time that I set the watch, I said, "Orders!" And the explosions flew, and rocks flew, and everything else. "Get in your holes! Get in your holes! Return fire! Return fire!" Well, of course, they didn't know what the hell to do. They jumped in the holes and had their heads down like this, and rocks and dirt were flying everywhere in the world, and I said, "I've got to get some fire going out here. I've got to teach them that the thing to do is immediately return fire, try to gain fire superiority." So I jumped in a hole, and in the hole were 2 actors, one by the name of Johnny Depp and the other by the name of Ivan Kane. And I jumped in the middle of both of them, and I shoved one aside, and I grabbed his M16 rifle, and I said, "Give me a magazine! Give me a magazine!" Meaning the box containing the cartridges for the rifle. Well, what I got was Ivan Kane reaching in his pack and coming out with Time and Newsweek, which he had bought at the airport in Manila. So we had to get over those kind of bumps, and we got over them very easily. I simply rolled up the magazines and whacked him about the head a couple of times until he got the idea that that wasn't the kind of magazine I was talking about. I have to say that about halfway through the training, when I had the kids humping all day long, marching and sweating in 110-degree heat, no water, no chow, sleeping about 2 hours a night if they didn't make me angry, and I decided to let them sleep. By the time we were ready for Oliver Stone to roll cameras, you could tell these were bush vets. These were infantry guys. Nothing gets close to the reality of combat. It's that horrendous and that horribly human experience. But I designed it so that the horror of it came at the last, where we had stretched the kids beyond their nervous exhaustion point. And then the emotions began to bubble up. They were very close to tears. And what brings you close to tears? Sometimes absolute exhaustion and a feeling of disorientation and loneliness. That's when I began to bore in and work on the emotions. We did an exercise in which these guys that they had fought next to and humped next to and walked next to and eat next to for 2 weeks, we declared one of them dead and went through the business of wrapping him in a poncho, taking his dog tags and tagging him, and having the corpsman and the rest of the guys carry him out to a helicopter. And at that point, the tears came. At that point, they understood what it is to suffer with a guy and to bond with him and to learn to love him, regardless of your backgrounds and your experiences. At that point, it got as close to reality as it's ever going to get. That's the compliment that I think we paid all of the men who fought and died in Vietnam. We said, here it is, folks. Here it is on the screen. Mass media, millions of people are going to see this. Here it is. And you know what? We raised hackles on everybody's arms. Everybody who was in Vietnam said, ooh, like it or not, there's something in that film that just sends the goose flesh up my arms, and that's what we wanted to do. And Platoon became a phenomenon. It became a sociological phenomenon.
Volley shooters! Up cock!
What I discovered is that making motion pictures, when you have a motion picture company on location, it's just like having a rifle company in the field. You have squad leaders, the prop guy and the wardrobe mistress and the sound guy. They're all squad leaders. They lead a little squad of people who do things like this. And what I did was I said, aha, I have spotted here what we in the military call a chain of command. Up here is the general, Oliver Stone, and down here are some producer weenies who are kind of like lieutenant colonels and things, and I have to respond to them. And then you've got the squad leaders and platoon sergeants down here who are running sound and camera and wardrobe and props and things of that nature. So I fit myself in kind of like the first sergeant, the senior enlisted guy that works for all of these. Oliver thought that was a neat way to work because I yelled and screamed at everybody, and that made him happy. And I kind of found that niche to be effective in motion pictures.
That means you, Lieutenant.
Training and discipline are integral to the success of a battle scene. Actors and stuntmen have to undergo rigorous training.